Hey, this is Abacus, and this is Payday 2's monthly side job, Old Memories. Beat rats on Overkill using the AMCAR rifle, Shimano 88, two-piece suit, and no skills.
No time to piss around. We go into the meth lab and secure the goods. I'm sure we don't have long before the law shows either, which is in keeping with the spectacular run of bad luck we've been having.
Now, the reason this one is called Old Memories, which is kind of cool, is because if back when Payday 2 first came out, not when it first came out, but when Rats was released, it was the first heist that had a ridiculous amount of experience tied to it. And just because it was a very variable heist, things could go really differently depending on how you approached it. It was possible to speedrun the heist. So a lot of people who played Payday 2 back in like 2012, 2013 used to speedrun this heist for the massive amounts of XP you would get, even if you ignored all the optional choices. And on this first day, that almost always involves blowing the meth lab. So that's what you're going to do here, because we're not doing this for XP, we're doing this for the monthly side job, to get a weapon boost. My AMCAR and my Chimano 88 are modded for stability. That's just a personal choice. The way that Payday 2 uses both of those stats is that accuracy has to do with how close your bullet will hit the center of the crosshair. That's me blowing the meth lab. And stability has to do with the amount of recoil on the weapon. So a weapon with 100 accuracy would almost always, like, the bullets would always hit the center of the crosshair. But a weapon with 100 stability, you would not have any recoil after firing it. So I usually prefer to max out stability based on those two options, because recoil also affects your accuracy because it affects how quickly you can fire the bullet again. And you fire so many bullets that even if your accuracy isn't stellar, you still usually hit what you're aiming for. Like, neither of these guns have great accuracy because they were both modded for stability. But watch as I start shooting people. I mean, yeah, look at me not hitting those heads. That's probably more me than the gun, to be honest. But, you know, I fire so many bullets that in the end they hit. And stability lets me fire my bullets quicker. So I usually mod my guns out for stability. And again, this is on Overkill. And Overkill's not awful, so usually just kind of hiding using the box as cover works out pretty well. And I got to bring mollies. The perk deck I'm using is Grinder. If you own Grinder, unfortunately, there's really no other reason to use anything else ever. So just kind of use Grinder all the time. I guess you could go for some sort of armor build. And armor builds are fun. I have a Mastermind Enforcer kind of sniper build that I use occasionally. But in general, the health regen from Grinder is insane, and it's something like this where you have to use the two-piece suit and no skills. It's really a lifesaver and makes this a lot easier. Like, you'll see that I complete the entire assignment and the entire mission in one try, no reuse. I mean, it gets hairy a few times, but oh man, Grinder saves my life. I thought I could talk about the side jobs as a concept a little bit, because Overkill added the side jobs in because people were complaining about the inability to get weapon mods, and in general they were trying to find a way to encourage people to play this game every day. And so every day you get 2 new side jobs, and you can roll for random weapon mods and get a little extra cash. In general, I thought it was a great addition to the game, because one of the most annoying aspects of RNG that this game has is the card drops, where you're trying to get weapon mods that you want, and every time you complete a heist you get a card drop, and you've got a great chance at getting something pathetic like extra money or extra experience, neither of which are useful in the slightest because the numbers are so small. Every so often you get a weapon mod, And then that weapon mod is something like, you know, a stock for the Corbus 9 SMG, or some barrel that's only usable on the Clarion, or something that you're just never going to use, and it was basically a wasted drop. So I really appreciated the ability to score extra weapon mods through gameplay, because, I mean, for one, I'm earning them. You know, I'm actually doing something in said side job. I'm not just completing a heist and drawing a card at the end. And the monthly side jobs were added for a similar reason. Team Boost had just come out, and they were making up for the fact that in Crime Fest you couldn't get weapon boost except through buying skins, and everybody got mad about that. Oh, done with this day. I legitimately don't know what happened there. Maybe I outran the cloaker, but... Alright.
We came up a little short. Let's just play along and try to solve the rat problem for Hector another way. We're inventive.
Anyway, so the monthly side job was added so that you could earn a weapon boost through gameplay, and while I enjoy it as a concept, it kind of feels... I don't know, odd, because it's a monthly. You only get to do one a month, and you do it, and then you get some random weapon boosts. They're usually more difficult than the dailies. Like, for example, it's making you run an entire heist without skills, and that's not the sort of challenge that the dailies... Because this is kind of like Tabula Rasa Light. Tabula Rasa being a pretty difficult achievement, at least for the effort involved. Anyway, and then it turns out that they later added the ability to get boosts as just traditional card drops. So every time you get a weapon mod as a card drop, there's a chance that it's a stat boost. Which means that they've now become depressingly common. And that, you know, it's not even depressing. Thank God they're common. I love weapon boosts. The one that I get the most use out of is concealment. I've got, I mean, just slapping an extra 1 concealment on a gun is great. But yeah, so they're really common, and so at the moment there's no real reason to do the monthlies unless you kind of feel like it. Like, it's cool that they're not just reusing achievements, because that's what they do in the other side jobs. Almost always it's complete an achievement you probably already have. They actually do create brand new challenges for the monthly side job. And you know, if you enjoy playing this game and its new challenges, knock yourself out. But if you're going legitimately for the weapon boost, there's no real reason to do it, because you can get a lot more weapon boosts by just farming Jewelry Store and getting a bunch of weapon mod cards. Or, as was just added extremely recently, Offshore Payday just became a permanent addition to the CrimeNet HUD. Anyway, speaking of the gameplay, I'm really screwing up here. I should have just sprinted straight through and tried my luck. You know, hit car to car, let the bots take all the damage. I don't know why I was so addicted to trying to get this darn door open, because it's not going to work, clearly. But to be honest, I kind of didn't really remember this garage escape that well. I thought the only way through was through this door. Because without skills, you have a dodge of 20. The two-piece suit comes with a default dodge of 20. My dodge is usually somewhere in the 70s with skills, because I tend to play a dodge grinder build. And I guess I kind of just forgot that my dodge isn't that stellar because of the nature of this achievement. And here I go down again. But my bots managed to save the day. You can complete this achievement with bots. They're not using AMCAR rifles, but the game doesn't care, and you don't lose your ability to earn the achievement. So this is day 2. When speed running rats, usually you have a team of 4, and what you do is, your goal is to get to the intelligence as quickly as possible. So the usual strategy is to send 2 players down the hallway that I'm walking through now, which is the left building, and then send 2 players down the right hallway, the right building.
Hey man, still ain't here. Turn around. This place is ours.
And I kind of like that guy's voice. I'm not sure why I'm pausing, but anyway, so yeah, you go as quickly as you can. I normally would be sprinting up these, but it's a little worried because gangsters have weapons that deal a lot of damage quickly, and I knew that I wasn't going in to dodge or anything, so I'm being a little slower than I need to. I was kind of hoping that they would burn the intel. They didn't. So I lucked out. Here's the intel. Had their, you know, the intel could have been in the other building. That would have been pretty bad. But spoiler alert, this turns out to be the intel, which is the only reason that I'm able to get out. Day 2 is a lot of fun. I remember just running Day 2 over and over again as part of Crime Fest 2015. One of the achievements, batter up, was to play this. What was it? It was to kill like 2 million, some huge amount of gangsters with the Lucille baseball bat, and this Day 2 was obviously the one that had the most gangsters in it, unless you felt like running Firestarter Day 1. And I kind of like this one a little better because on Firestarter the police arrive so quickly, and this one you usually had time to sprint around and kill every single gangster with the baseball bat before any cops show up. And then you just restart and do it again. My stats have been forever ruined because of that. It's going to say that I've got 500 kills with the baseball bat, and that it's the most kills I've got of any melee weapon. Especially because I recently got the Golden Crane Casino, grabbed the buzzer, absolutely adoring it. I think I used it exactly once in this entire video, but the buzzer is a great melee, really worth the money. But it doesn't get kills very often. It's usual that you just use it to reload your weapon and then pop the guy in the head. Hey, speaking of melee weapons, so the Wolfpack 2 just came out, and the melee weapon included with the DLC that I got for free, says anyone who owns the Wolfpack from Payday the Heist got the new Wolfpack DLC for free. And what I don't get about the new melee weapon is that it's a nail gun. It advertises the fact that it has more range than any other melee weapon, at least I can assume, because most melee weapons don't come with a ranged stat. And so I've used the melee weapon, and I can't really see the range. Like, I can assume that maybe it does have more range, but at the end of the day, I can only ever hit people in melee range, and it's just you bludgeoning them with the nail gun. So I don't know what I was expecting, but the page advertises like, hey, we decided to take melee in a new direction, and rather than add 4 similar melee weapons that get completely buried in this giant pile of worthless melees, let's just add one really well-designed and different melee weapon, which as a concept I will support. But in practice, this particular melee weapon doesn't act any different from a melee weapon. I mean, you give a guy a nail gun, and then he bludgeons cops to death with said nail gun. He never even fires any nails. So I thought that was really weird. But I mean, you know, melee in this game has always kind of been pretty worthless. Every single melee weapon kind of just hits people. No real utility in melees except for the buzzer, which is why it's the only weapon I ever use. Yeah, this part, so... Green and black dozer at the same time. That was fun. In case you may have noticed in this gameplay, my usual strategy is to set fully automatic weapons to single fire by default and just run around killing cops semi-automatically, only switching to full auto when I need to deal a lot of damage quickly to a solitary target, usually either a cloaker, a taser, or bulldozer. Yeah, things get pretty hairy in this room, but didn't really have a choice. Had I been a little luckier, I could have gotten a safe that you can lockpick, but I didn't. Anyway, like I was saying about melee, in this game, there are only two melees you're ever gonna want. You're gonna want the melee that deals the most damage, regardless of swing time. At the moment, I think it's the katana, or the fire axe. Or you're going to want the melee that swings really, really fast. And then it doesn't matter how much damage it does, because you can just fire off a bunch of uncharged melee weapons and just defeat your opponent to death of 1,000 cuts. And I don't know which melee weapon has that title at the moment, because every time there's a new DLC, it gets replaced. At the beginning of the game, Nova's Shank came out during Crime Fest at the same time as Hawkston Breakout, and that was that one. You could just stab, stab, stab really fast. And then the Trench Knife came out with the Historical Pack, which was identical to the Nova Shank, but with dealing more damage. Barbecue came out with the Mother Forker, just like the Trench Knife, but even more damage, albeit at the cost of concealment. And then I want to say the Ninja Pack with its Kunai came out, replacing that. And then the Golden Twin Casino came out with the Switchblade. That was even better than the Kunai, except that it didn't deal poison on stab. But the Kunai only dealt poison on stab 20% of the time, so it was worth ignoring. Not that anyone who buys Golden Grin is going to use the Switchblade over the buzzer. That was a little screw up on my part, and something that kind of bugs me in Payday 2. I don't know whether if I had my choice I'd remove it or not, because, I mean, the heisters are pretty powerful as it is, but it does bug me that cops can shoot grenades out of the sky, because just like what happened there, what usually happens is you try to throw a grenade, it makes it like a couple inches in front of you, and then one of the 50 cops you were probably hoping to kill with that grenade, shoot it, and it blows up in your face. And I mean, that's okay. It forces you to use your grenades tactically, but there are just a couple instances where the grenades don't have that downside. The frag grenades that came out with the Gauge Weapon Pack 1 do explode in the air like that, making them relatively useless. And then the Western Pack came out with Dynamite, which shares the exact same stats as the frag grenades, except they don't have that problem. The cops cannot shoot them out of the sky. Meaning that they're just significantly more useful as a grenade. And then when we go into the weapons, there are certain weapons that are immune to the problem. The RPG, which is a secondary that comes with the Overkill pack, is really hard to use, because every time you try to shoot it, somebody shoots the stupid thing out of the sky and blows you up. Similar problem with the grenade launchers, but then there is the bow and arrow, which you can equip with explosive rounds that came with the Western pack, and those arrows cannot be shot out of the sky. So we've got a grenade launcher, I mean, let's compare the HE bow to the grenade launcher. The grenade launcher has two, or maybe one. I don't actually own the GL40 in this game, but it's got one or two shots loaded. The Piglet has 6 shots loaded. They can be shot out of the sky. They don't have that much ammo in reserve, and they don't pick up that much ammo from weapon pickups. And then we've got the bow. You've got a bunch of arrows in reserve. They can't be shot out of the sky. You can fire them really fast, and if you have Swan Song aced, you basically have infinite arrows. There's even a weapon boost, those ones you get from the monthly. It's actually the one I get from this monthly that gives you +8 total arrows in your inventory. So in general, I found that I never need to use any explosive weapons if I have the bow equipped. Especially after the Crime Fest rebalance that made pistols incredibly good in this game. At the moment, I think that you can get a Bronco with perfect accuracy, perfect stability, damage that hits all the thresholds, and 33 concealment. And I don't know if you can get all that stuff at the same time, but you can get a lot of them. And in general, a lot of times I'm finding that I have a difficult time choosing a primary because I'm going to be using my Bronco or my Deagle as my primary weapon. So I'm like, I need to find some sort of utility primary, and there aren't a lot of those. So I oftentimes find myself using the HE or the explosive bow because you just have so many explosive arrows.
That was easy. Nice work. Unfortunately, Hector just told me the FBI has nabbed the remaining Mendoza.
And this
and are
last day
escorting
is
them to the
by far
airport
the
in a convoy,
easiest.
which means we don't have much time.
Now, like I said, showing my age, have not played Rats in such a long time. I couldn't legitimately remember what the ace pilot did. I wasn't sure if he was the pilot that you escape the heist in, or if he was the one that shows up to grab the money that I'm not going to be bothering with because it's a speed run.
Move towards the bus. Remember, we're after the rat. Head for the bus, keep your heads low, and move from cover to cover.
That's a great idea, Bane. Or we could just run sprint straight through the middle.
Hector wants no one to step off at the next station. That's a clean sweep. All the Mendozas are history. Get to the chopper, or go for the money they got on that bus.
So day 3, definitely a piece of cake compared to days 1, 2, and the escapes. We lucked out not getting the second escape. And that's February's monthly side job. If you can find a team to do it with you, that'd be awesome, but I couldn't. I tried to for a while, find somebody else who needed that heist, but none of it worked out. Just because everybody who kind of knows this game already had that achievement because, what, February's halfway done. So I ended up doing it alone. You're probably going to end up doing it alone. I mean, if you want to add me on Steam, I'm definitely down to play old memories again. I enjoy speedrunning Rats. It's a bummer that there's no longer any reason to do so. And I totally already spoiled this, but let's see what random stat boost I get. Oh, it's total ammo. See you, everyone.